Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Genie here with another general guide on the YupGoolg mod progression. Season 9 has started and I've been getting some questions about how to build your character and how to proceed. So here's a quick video to show you how to progress through the game. But for specific mechanics and gimmicks you should know, please check out my other video in the top right corner because this guide is going to assume that you already know the basics. As soon as you start, make sure to put your gold in your personal inventory stash and head over to Akara to see if there's any useful items. Also, you're going to be buying a few stamina potions, antidote potions, and thawing potions to make sure you get those benefits early on. As you can see, I found a 2 charge bolt staff, and that would help early on. You would kill a few mobs in the beginning and level up and start picking your primary skill to level up with. Now each character has a different power progression, and all of these are just suggestions that I know from my experience. Feel free to experiment because that is part of the fun. Starting from the top and going clockwise, barbarians are going to have the hardest time, so make sure you pick up 2 early scepters from Akara, go mace mastery, only leveling all the skills up to level 25, and hope that you find some good items along the way. For sorcerers, it's pretty easy. You can just go and get charge bolt. 25 will be able to get you to level 30, at which point you can transition over. Druid has the easiest time. As soon as you get the poison creeper, you can just roll through the game. Make sure you do pick up the werewolf though for the frame rate and the addition to stamina. For paladins, I would give 1 to might at level 2 and then the rest to sacrifice until we can get to level 30. Sacrifice has a better damage scaling and it gives you attack rating as well. For assassins, I personally use Fire Blast, but you can get Claw Mastery and just start hitting the monsters as well. And for Amazon, they're the next hardest next to Barbarians, I believe. Just a jab and a critical strike to get you going for the first while. And for Necromancers, they might have the easiest early game because you just invest into teeth and it will get you going. Just a quick reminder, this waypoint does not work because it leads to the cow level. For leveling, you're going to be finding these unique mob packs and killing them, which will give you more experience. You can just stay at players level 1. As you progress through the game, make sure you're picking up all the items, everything that looks important, Pokeballs, figures, jewels, gems, and even a crystal sword for a base later on. All of the items, including things like Manald rings or Nagel rings that we used to throw away, are important as well. Most items all have a use, so we'll cover those towards the end of the video. Also, make sure you drop by the store every now and then and look for items that can help you. For example, sorcerers can use the faster cast rate, so I switched the wand there. Barbarians can try and find items with minimum and maximum damage. As I mentioned, you want to pick up all the items because jewels can be re-rolled like this to try and get modifiers that can help you. You can get resistance, minimum and maximum damage, and you can either socket them in your gear or charms. Speaking of charms, you can re-roll charms as well, so it gives you one more chance to get a better mod and to make them into white bases so that you can make rune wounds. And chipped gems can be re-rolled into different colors to find what you need, and they can ultimately be made into gem wards. 2 rubies of the same tier and color will give you flame, which will give you maximum life, and 2 sapphire gives you mana. Make your way into the Black Marsh as you kill mobs and level up. Make sure you pick up the waypoint to come back because we're going to have to farm. And you're going to try and find the tower. By this point, you'll probably be around level 30, at which point you're going to respec into your next primary skills. So for Barbarians, you're still going to use whatever weapons are the best and use double swing. Take 1 leap for that movement. For Sorcerers, you're still going to use Charge Bolt, but now you're going to invest in Static Field, which will bring all the mobs down to 1% health, and you can just kill them with the Charge Bolt. For Druid, you are now going to move into Molten Boulder. Always take that 1 skill into Werewolf for that faster cast frame rate, but Molten Boulder does physical damage and fire damage, and it can trigger on-hit effects such as amplified damage. Paladins, I forgot to change the symbols, but as you're going to moving into Holy Fire Aura, and that will carry you through normal. For assassins, take 1 point into burst of speed, and I usually use shock web, but again, you can use different skills. For Amazon, I found the poison javelin is the easiest to try and kill a large pack of monsters. And for Necromancer, you're going to pick up the clay golem to act as a meat shield, and then use corpse explosion to kill the rest of the map. Now we're going to be farming the Countess for our early rune words. Exploding potions are more rare now, so make sure you open up all the chests and try to find one because they can make things easier. But otherwise, you just endless farm the Countess. But as you can see, I'm on players 1, and she drops no runes. Due to the recent change, you might have to increase the player's difficulty a little bit for you to start dropping more items, because normal Countess can only drop 1. But I was lucky enough to find a soul rune. I only used the items that I found and picked up myself in this video so that it's fair for all the new players so that you can follow along. I usually do save the runes if it's an Am rune or higher because it has more uses later on. But for the early parts, you can just break them into the runes that you need, which is what I'm doing here. But if you're not as lucky as me and you didn't pick up an exploding potion or a high tier rune, you're just going to keep farming the Countess until you can find these runes for these rune words. Now obviously for rune words we need proper bases, but in YupGoolg mod it's fairly easy to find. So for me, I go to Geeds and I gamble until I can find a full row belt. That makes things easier as we go along. And I respec so that my strength is at about 60 so that I can use that belt. Don't give anything to dexterity for none of the characters. Give the rest all to health and just enough mana for a good sustain. If you didn't listen and didn't watch my previous video, you're going to transmute a scroll of identify to make it into a white base. And then the number of town portal scrolls that you need for the number of sockets. So I put in 2 for the 2 sockets, and I can get those bases set up. Gloves are a little bit special in that it has a variety of rune words. You can pick whichever helps your character. For druids that use the fire skills early on, a leaf would be a great choice. I left it blank, there wasn't one that I could really use for sorcerers, but you're going to go ahead and make all those rune words that I spoke about. You can make the rune words in belts as well, so you get 2 stealths. You can make the F and the L rune for the Edelweiss, and then also an Ancient's Pledge and a 3-socket shield. And as a reminder, you can also make a rune word in your charm as well. Unless you need the faster cast rate though, more than 3 stealths don't give you that much more movement speed. So don't waste too much time getting 50 stealths, that's my personal opinion. The new rune word, Edelweiss and Joy together, gives you cannot be frozen though, and this is great because the Frost Nova explosions slow you down quite a bit. So this was a great addition. Make sure to use these 2 rune words. And if you're lucky enough to find a random rune box, which I was, you can transmute it to get 3 random runes up to 22. So on rune. So for me, I would make a memory later with this. Going back to picking up every item, I always make sure to pick up every single charm, because a large charm like this can be re-rolled. Not only does it give you different modifiers, even if you don't get a skill, I make sure to pick up Stealth or Smoke on large charms, Ancient's Pledge and Gren charms, or character-specific rune words like Peace, which can make the early game for Amazons a lot easier. After all those rune words, you can start progressing. This is my sample character as soon as it got to Ontario. I'm at level 42, decent resistance. These are my stats, and all those rune words that we spoke about, not much else has changed. I personally kind of rush through things so that I don't waste too much time, but feel free to take it slow, get as many things as you need, because there's no rush, it is single player. In terms of quests, not much has changed, so you're just going to kill Ontario, make sure to pick up all the gems because these are useful. A quick tip, if you want to upgrade your items or the next rune word, instead of wasting a rune and trying to find different ones, you can use gems to get the runes out of the sockets. So a mid-tier gem, like a normal sapphire that I just used, will take the rune words out. Or the other option is to use 3 chip gems. and you can also take the runes out of the sockets. These don't work if your items are enchanted, so make sure to do it on just normal basis. And the reason why I told you to pick up a crystal sword is because it only has a 43 strength requirement, and it can be made into a 4 socket, which will give you a spirit if you have the runes for it. Now, if you're a damage-based character, the plus skills might not be as useful as flat damage rolls, so make sure you pick what's best for your character, but for the most part, spirit is going to be the go-to item. From here, you shouldn't have too much issues. Go find the Staff of Kings, go find the amulet, put them together and kill the summoner. The symbol of the tombs is marked for you so that you can easily find it, but in case you re-rolled your map and can't find the right tomb to the quest screen, you can look for the symbol that is not here in the top of the waypoint, and that will be the correct tomb. Here's my sample character at level 60, and when you hit level 60, you can now move on to the next skill. For barbarians, the find item is a great skill to try and find early items. Unfortunately, you have to keep using double swing though. For sorcerers, you either move on to Nova or Fireball. I prefer Nova. For Druid, you're still using the Molten Boulder and grabbing all the synergies, except you can add Cyclone Armor for your defenses. For Paladin, you can finally start using Charge, which will speed you up, and you can use Charge in towns as well. For Assassins, you can finally use the Wake of Fire Trap. That will clear the fields much easier. And for Amazons, you can either move on to Exploding Arrow and switch over to the Arrow build, or you can just continue to use the Plague Javelin. For Necromancer, again, you're basically going to be using Teeth all the time, but now you can start getting Bone Armor and the synergies for those skills. Go ahead and kill Juriel, and I know I keep emphasizing, but make sure to pick up all the rare items and check as well. If I get something like this as an Amazon, I would probably definitely switch over to the Exploding Arrow. Once you're in Act 3 and wasn't able to find a ring or amulet with teleport on it, make sure you shop for a teleport staff. It's kindly marked. Even sorceresses need the teleport staff because you only learn teleport at level 90. Not much has changed except the flare dungeon. You can go straight to level 3 so that it makes the progress a little faster. But you just break open the room, kill Mephisto, get to Diablo. I was at about level 68. You might be a little higher though because again I was rushing. And for about the millionth time, I'm going to be picking up the items and checking to see what can help me early, because a sword like this would be a game-breaking ender for a barbarian. It has the minimum damage, the maximum damage, and both of them based on character level as well, the attack rating, mana leech. For Act 5, you would go and save the barbarians. It gives you a Ral or Tell, which together is a free Ancient's Pledge. Lastly, you make your way to the Throne of Destruction. Now here, even if you are rushing, I would suggest that you clear out these mobs on the path towards the actual throne room, because unlike the vanilla game, you're going to have to face some hard enemies. I would drink some antidote potions for the first battle minion, which is Andariel. She does quite a bit of poison damage and it sticks with you, so it drains away your health. Now, I'm a sorcerer, so I can use static field like this to try and kill her early, but for most characters, unless you're over leveling, it's going to be pretty difficult to kill, so you can just draw her out and make your way back in. The second one is Duriel. He is immune to cold damage, so if you're cold based, then you won't be able to kill him. And the same thing, his hits hit quite a bit, and because he is cold enchanted, when he dies, he releases the Frost Nova, which does quite a bit of damage. So again, for most characters, I would suggest that you skip him. As you can see, it took me down to half health. Third one is Mephisto. With the sorceress, I won't be able to kill him because he's lightning immune. It is very difficult to target. As you can see, I have to mouse over him carefully to even see his health. So I would draw him out like this. And this is why I would clear the path so that you don't have to deal with any other monsters. And once he's drawn out enough, I would teleport back in to spawn the next one. The fourth is Diablo. Now here, you have to be extra careful. If you do decide to kill him, you can't stand right next to him. So if you want to draw him out, he has a AI that's very difficult to handle. So you have to stand behind some sort of wall for him to start following you around. Otherwise, he's just going to be shooting lightning beams at you constantly. So as you can see, I'm standing behind this pillar and he'll finally start following me around. But if you try to kill him and you stand right next to him like I'm doing right now, I'm going to be dying very shortly because he's fire enchanted. And there I go. So especially if you're playing on hardcore, be careful not to do this. And the last mob used to be the hardest one, but now it's the easiest one. If you can, killing them at players level 7 gives you quite a bit of experience, but just be careful. For Bale itself, I would go player 7 because they can drop clear charms. So it might take a little bit longer. Static field makes it easier for me personally. With your character, it might be longer, but it's worth doing because you don't want to miss that chance to get the important clear charm, which can roll skills. Normal Bale will drop telekinesis, which you can use to pick up every item in the game. Nightmare Bale will drop find item, like you see here, so it gives you a chance to get more items from unique monsters. And Hell Bale will give you Holy Shield, which helps your survivability. Now you will finish normal and move on to Nightmare. And as soon as you do, you'll notice that your resistance is now pretty bad. So the priority would be to check the store again for useful items. Physical damage characters can look for gloves with a chance to cast amplified damage, which helps you great. There's a 3 to fire skills if I was a fire sorceress. And also, you can get a lower resist wand for any elemental characters. This will help pushing a lot easier. And you will be at about level 90, so you'll be looking for these skills. Barbarians are going to move on to Leap Attack, which just got buffed, so that looked pretty fun to play. Sorcerers can finally start using her teleport. Druid, you're still going to be doing Molten Boulder and Cyclone Armor, just focusing on their synergies. Paladin, you can move on to the Hammer, which causes a Nova to go around you, so it's a lot easier to use. And with the Hammer, you can clear up to Hell no problem. For Assassins, the blades got buffed this time around, so it looks like that's the good thing to use with a good physical damage weapon. And for Amazons, you're going to start using Charged Strike. And for Necros, like I always say, Teeth and Bone Armor synergies all the way. Not much changes in terms of progression. You find your tower again. I'm at about this level. So pick a player count that you think you can manage, but the higher it is, the better chances of getting a rune will be. And you're going to be endlessly farming the Countess until you can make these rune words. If you didn't get the Spirit in normal, you'll want a total of 3 Spirit runes, maybe an Insight, a Lore, and maybe a Smoke. It depends on the runes you get, because gloves can have so much variety. For example, if you get a Core rune, Hustle and Glove is great. For melee characters, Cure helps with the survivability, and Harmony in a Great Charm will help you move a lot faster to clear earlier. As I mentioned before, with that Thaw rune that I got, I'm going to be making Memory for the Sorceress. It's plus to 3 skills, and all the options that you would want in a Sorceress. And if you can't find good bases, you can use an Eld rune to upgrade a normal item into an exceptional base. And that way you can make a 4-socket. You can do the same with gloves and boots as well. They will turn into Demonhide gloves and Demonhide boots. Usually I would make a Spirit on boots, but because I made the Memory on the gloves, I will make an Insight. Respec so that I can equip all the newly made items, and you are pretty much ready to proceed. And a quick reminder, when you do respec, make sure your skills don't go above the base level 25, and it's pretty simple from here. Kill Andariel, pick up all the items that are going to be helpful for you, and as soon as you get to level 120, pick up these skills. For Barbarian, the Grim Ward now causes a wide area of monsters to be affected by amplified damage, and also the targets are slowed. So this is a must-have. For sorceresses, energy shield for that survivability. Druids can start using tornado, so now you're going to be using tornado for the most part and getting all their synergies. Paladins can get the holy shield for the survivability. Assassins can probably have enough skill points to start investing into Fade. In this mod, you can cast both Burst of Speed and Fade at the same time. Amazons, it's going to be the same. You're going to be using Charge Strike for the bosses for the single target damage, and Plague Javelin for a larger group of mobs. And for Necromancer, nothing changes, Teeth and Bone Armor. As you go towards the end of Nightmare and into Hell, you have one of two options. You can either try and power through, or you can just take your time and farm a bit in Nightmare so that you have more gear and more levels. So right now I'm at level 121, and the simple gear that I've gone through with you is everything that I have. So she's pretty underleveled. All I have is a lower resist wand. So this is what it looks like to try and power through. You're going to try and fly through and kill all the mobs while drinking a lot of potions and casting that lower resist wherever you can. But as you can see, you're kind of dancing on the fence. And it may be frustrating because you're going to come close to dying or have difficulty killing the immunities. So the choice is up to you. Obviously, farming early on can make it all the safer and easier as you progress through. But overall efficiency, it is much more efficient to farm in Hell, especially once you get to the terrorized zones, because they can drop items such as conviction gems and ultimate facets. One thing to mention before we move on though, if you do clear Nightmare, it's worth farming the Nightmare Bale for that find item clear charm that I mentioned, because that adds a huge efficiency aspect in terms of farming. And if you are able to kill the Bale minions, you also have a small chance to drop those conviction gems. If you do decide to farm for a bit more power, which is what I suggest for beginners, then there are a total of 3 ways that you can do this. First one is figure boxes. As you progress through the game and you start picking up the figures, if you combine any 5 of them, then you will get a figure box. It automatically starts off with an area attack, which is helpful for the melee characters because it causes your hits to do area damage. The second way is going to this area in Act 5. You can do this in any difficulty, but realistically, Hell is the most efficient. At player 7, normal difficulty has a drop chance of 15%, and Nightmare has a drop chance of 30%. So I usually wait until I can kill Nightmare Pokemon of Legend at player 7 difficulty and hope for that 30% chance for the drop. And if you're able to kill them and get your first Pokédex, you can start stacking the Pokeballs you've been collecting into the item for massive benefits. Here's an example of a figure box. This is not complete, but it still gives you that many options and a Pokédex. So you can see how this would give you a lot of power. For a complete list of all the options, you can take a look at this guide tab. It also has a lot of other information. The way to stack up the figure and Pokédex the fastest would be the cow level in the early stage. Opening it up is the same. You get your War's Leg and combine it with the Town of Scrone portal. And as soon as you enter, make sure you get the waypoint so you can teleport into it. Now this is me killing Nightmare cow level at players 1 difficulty. And right now I'm below level 150, so you can see how long this takes at players 1. As soon as I hit level 150 and get the Lightning Mastery, just the 1 point, I've changed the player count to players 5, and I'm killing it at the same speed, if not faster. The next way you can get power is through unique charms. Along the way, you'll pick up some useful uniques, which is not good enough to use on your main character as gear. But the horns that you get from Duriel, the milk that you get from the Cow King, and the wings that you get from Iswell, you can combine them based on the amount required for that item, which you can check in the guide tab. And because the skin of the Viper Magi is under level 120 requirement, it requires 2 of each, and it can turn into a charm. And if you have it just in your inventory, you can reap the benefits. So for example, something like Dark Glow, that increases your max resistance. If I turn that into a charm, it helps me increase my max resistance. Here are a lot of the early game all-skill items that you can kind of get, and the Guardian Angel, which also increases your maximum resistance. And these are examples of the best in slot unique items to turn into charms. The Shaft Stop gives you physical damage reduction. Kelpie Snare, for any on-hit effects, slows the target so it helps with survivability. And Razor Switch gives you +1 to all skills and 50 resistance. And last but not least, you can enchant your items to increase your power as well. So the random boxes that you get can be combined with a corresponding type of item. So weapon boxes will go into weapons, and you can start rolling all these modifiers that you can see here. For physical damage dealers, the flat damage has a great power, similar to having Grief, so that's a must. And as you start speccing up, you can go into the terrorized zones, start picking up everything that drops from the terrorized zones, such as these figures, Pokeballs, enchant boxes, and ultimate facets. And whenever you feel like you can make your way into Hell and finish the tutorial. After you finish the tutorial, you'll be wondering what to do next. And at the start of the video, I mentioned you should be picking up every item, including the Nagel and Manald rings. And if you haven't picked anything up, combining 2 accessory random boxes gives you a chance to get the Nagel and Manald rings. So unlike the vanilla game, selling a Manald ring, Nagel ring, or Jordan ring will spawn the Diablo. If you kill him at player's difficulty 1 though, he might not drop anything. So make sure that you're on player 7 and he will start dropping Annie charms. You can get normal Annies, but the special thing here is that you can roll elemental Annie charms. So I've gotten a fire one here. So the fire conviction gems that you pick up along the way, you will start stacking into this Annie charm. And it will grant you a conviction aura that's specific to that elemental type. So you can see here, I've got a level 31 conviction for physical damage. 31 is the highest it can go. And with this, and the 21 level conviction aura from your Pokédex, you can start farming in the Professor Oak Lab. And here is where your ultimate endgame will begin. Each individual monster has a drop table that is equal to Hell Bale. So I hope you have fun. It turned out to be longer than I expected. If you enjoyed the content, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And please comment down below for any suggestions on how to improve the video, or for anyone who has better tips that they can leave for other players. Because ultimately, your wish is my command.